In today's episode of Malicious Compliance, people conform to the letter, but not the spirit of a request. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel with notifications turned on and drop a thumbs up. My ex's divorce lawyer said, send 3 years of complete financials or else. I said, as you wish. This happened several years ago when my ex and I were going through a heated divorce/custody battle. While we were married, we had a couple of conversations about how rich people hide their assets to avoid paying taxes. I never had enough assets to do this, but she somehow got the idea that I was and told her attorney that I was laundering money and hiding income. It was more likely the heat of the moment, as divorce/custody battles often come down to. I couldn't even afford my own attorney, so I represented myself. Her lawyer wasn't a total jerk, but he clearly was out to get me, and he talked down to me like I didn't deserve to breathe the same air. One day I get a letter in the mail from him requesting an updated income declarations form and 3 years of financials. It had a long list of things to include. I own a communications tech company that was in a super startup phase back then. Money was already tight. I was trying to get this business off the ground with no financing. I was finishing my MBA with scholarships and loans, so paying for copies and postage or driving this 30 miles to his office meant eating peanut butter and saltines for a week. So I called him to explain my situation. He all but called me a liar and didn't believe I couldn't afford it. I was put off by that and said I was taking time away from business I needed to handle, to which he replied, and I'll never forget this, well, according to your income declarations, you're not that busy. What do you do all day? He then said if he didn't get these documents, he would consider my previous filings as fraudulent, tell the judge, contact the DA, and also alert the state tax agency and the IRS. Probably an empty threat, but I'm no lawyer. eFax is one of the services my company provides, and at this time it was relatively unknown. So I asked him if he had a fax machine. He said he had a fax/scanner/copier device, then said, what law office doesn't have a fax machine? And I suddenly got an idea. Okay, I said to him, I'll put it together and fax whatever I can. Okay, jerk, you want 3 years of financials? You got it. I scanned to PDF every receipt I could find. McDonald's receipts from 5 years ago? Throw it in. One hurt to include. CVS receipt? It's 3 months long. Perfect. They get the $1 off toothpaste coupons too. I downloaded every bank statement, credit card statement, purchase orders from vendors, and every invoice I sent to clients. I printed to PDF the entire 3-year accounting journal, monthly, quarterly, annual balance sheets, cash flow statements, profit and losses. Not only did I PDF 3 years of tax filings, but every single letter I received from the IRS and state tax agency, including the inserts advising me of my rights. It took a while, but I was a few days ahead of the deadline. I made a cover page, black background with white lettering. Wherever I could, I included separator pages in all caps, boldest font that would fit on the page, in landscape, 20XX receipts, 20XX taxes, etc. is how I labeled it. I merged everything into a single 150-page compressed PDF file and sent the document using my eFax system. Every hour or so, I received a status email saying the fax failed. That's weird. Well, they're getting this document, so I changed the system configuration to unlimited retries after failures to keep redialing until it went through. Weird. I was still getting status email failures. I'll delete the failure emails and keep the success ones after it eventually goes through, I thought. Problem solved. 2 days later, a lady from his office called and asked me to stop sending the fax. Their fax/scanner/printer/copier had been printing non-stop. It kept getting printer jams, it kept running out of ink, and it had to keep shutting it off and on to print. I explained that her boss told me to send this by the deadline or else he would call the DA and IRS. Since I didn't want to call from the DA or IRS, I would keep sending until I get a success confirmation. I suggested they just not print until my fax completes, but she didn't like that. She asked me to email the document, and I told a little white lie that my email wouldn't allow an attachment that day unless her boss in writing agreed to cancel the request or reimburse me for the costs to print and ship. I said I would continue to fax until they confirmed they have received every page. She put me on hold and the attorney gets in the line. He said forget sending the financials. I said that I would need this in writing, so I would keep sending the fax until he said that to me. He asked me to stop faxing and he would send it in writing. I said send it in writing first and then I'll stop. A long moment of silence and then click. About 20 minutes later I received an email from his assistant with an attached signed letter in PDF that I no longer needed to provide financials. The letter then threatened to pursue sanctions in court or sue me for interfering with their business. Every time I saw him after that, the lawyer never brought up sanctions, lawsuits, criminal referrals, or financials ever again. This is a funny story, but it's kind of sad what this is actually a result of. He told her about how rich people hide their assets, and then it created this whole thing trying to make it seem like he's hiding assets. But the strange part is, of all people, people, shouldn't she know if he has money or not, if she was married to him and living with him, and I assume they have children, is it fighting over custody? And from the way he tells it here, it sounds like he was really in a bad spot financially, but nobody believed him, I guess. The actual repeated sending of the facts over and over and over again, somebody called peeper bombing, and they said, I do this generally via scan and email when the entire record is requested. I ask if the receiver needs the entire record or just the most recent court orders, case plan assessment, etc. Most of the time they say they just want the most recent set of documents plus the entire narrative. Easy peasy for them and me. But if they ask for the entire record, then that is what they get. It may take days in between my regular work, but if you want 4 banker boxes full, you get 4 banker boxes full. I never copy and snail mail. They waste my time for unnecessary paperwork. They can waste their own paper and printer toner/ink. And all the years I've done this, or 10 out of the last 19 times, I've only had to do the full paper bombing 3 or 4 times. So this is basically just office warfare. People spam sending faxes and emails at each other until they get overwhelmed and they want to stop requesting. It seems like these malicious compliance stories are actually kind of just the guidebook manual on how to do all these little tricks, because this is something I wouldn't have even ever thought of. But let me know what you guys would do if you were in this situation, or if you have been in a situation, let me know what happened. My mother-in-law lied about my baby gender, and now I have to see my baby in the clothes they brought. I'm a 30-year-old female, and November of last year we gave birth to our first baby. It's the first in my family and the 6th in my husband's family, who's a 32-year-old male. It's important to say that all 6 kids are boys, and mother-in-law is in some sick baby girl rabies. Ever since we made the announcement, mother-in-law convinced herself that I was pregnant with a girl. I told her that once we knew the gender, she would be the first to know. We told her it was a boy, and she was still convinced it was a girl. She told her whole side of the family that it was a girl. I corrected, but she told them I was just annoyed because I wanted a boy first. I just wanted a healthy baby. I didn't care about the gender. She also told them we are naming the girl after her mom, which we will never do because my husband hates his grandma. When the baby shower gift started to come, I noticed that a lot of things weren't from the register, embroidered things with grandma's name, and it didn't matter. We told them the gender and the name and made it clear we are not lying about the gender. Everyone believed her instead of believing us. Well, the baby was born, and imagine the surprise. It was a boy, just like we have been telling everyone. The problem for them was that now the baby has plenty of girly clothes, pink onesies, etc., and we are dressing our baby with them, specifically for his family video calls and for pictures for them. After a Saturday call, our mother-in-law called us to scream at us because we're making the elders uncomfortable for not sticking to a masculine color scheme for the baby clothes, and we have to stop being this childish. She just thought my belly shape was more like a girl than it was a boy. We told her we will not be able to change the baby's clothes and to just wait until the dresses fit. He will look adorable. Am I the jerk? Okay, first off, how can you tell the gender of a baby based on the belly shape of the mom who's pregnant? Is that even a thing? Is that just a made-up thing, or is that really something that people know about? Secondly, I think for most people it's a bigger deal than the OP's making it seem like, where your baby shower, which some people are really counting on to get supplies and things they need for their baby, are all full of things that they don't really want for the baby because they want to dress the baby like it's not a girl. But what they're doing is kind of cool. They're just putting the baby in those clothes. So ultimately, the parents themselves don't even really seem bothered by it. They just say, hey, you give us these clothes, we'll put these clothes on, who cares? But it's the mother-in-law herself who's upset about it, which is the same person that made this whole situation come to be. So if anything, the mother-in-law should say, hey, let me help you return the clothes so we can get clothes that are for a boy baby, if that really matters, which it's a baby. I don't think the baby's going to care one way or another, but it really seems to be a big deal to the mother-in-law. So let me know what you guys think. Was the OP, the mom here, a jerk or not a jerk for handling it this way? And what would you do? They told me, I don't care if he's dead. Put him on the phone. My father died on Father's Day of 2012. He was divorced and living alone. And I am an only child, so that means I had to wrap up all of his affairs. This story centers around us trying to get his utilities canceled. I called in to see what we had to do to get them to cancel, and a lady I spoke was on the phone said that we need to send in his certified death certificate. I sent in the certified copy of his death certificate the next day. The next month, we got another bill. I called again and a new woman answered. She said that because I wasn't on the account, she had to speak with the account holder. I informed her that the account holder is dead, but she wouldn't budge. I had to make an appointment with a supervisor so she would speak to him herself in person. I showed up at the Board of Public Utilities with another death certificate and his ashes in the clear bag that they returned his remains in. I plopped them down on the center of her desk and said, when she talked to him, to tell him that I loved him for me. The woman went pale, flew out of her chair and called the cops. When the cops showed up, she claimed that I had assaulted her. And yes, my dad's remains were still in the middle of her desk with the death certificate. The cops questioned me as to why I would do that. I told them the story. The supervisor's boss was called in and they all stepped away from the desk for a private talk. While they were talking, the cops came over to talk to me. They said I shouldn't take human remains out in public, but there were no laws that were broken. I said that I agree with them that it was extreme, but she insisted to speak to him in person. By the time they were done talking between themselves, the supervisor's boss kissed up to me and got it taken care of. But the story isn't over yet. I had to call back a few days later to get the utilities back to the house in my name. When the person on the phone saw the address in my name, I was immediately put on hold. The supervisor's boss that finally held me got on the phone. She sucked up to me and waived all the fees that come along with setting up utilities. Just as the call was ending, she informed me again that she was so sorry for the employee's lack of compassion. She said the employee was terminated, and again, she is so very sorry. Was I the jerk? So either this woman who was terminated didn't understand that he was dead, or she's reading off of some sort of call prompt that has some rule that says we must speak to him no matter what. I can't really imagine any other scenario besides those two scenarios that could even happen here, because you wouldn't logically make sense even to herself if she's asking to speak to somebody who's dead in order to turn off the utilities. That doesn't make sense. And it is sad because he has to bring the ashes to the building in person to kind of dredge all this up when it's probably painful. So let me know if you guys have ever been in a situation like this, and if you haven't, what would you do? And do you think it was too far to bring the ashes to the actual building? Jerk or not a jerk, and why?